What if I told you that a philosopher from the 1800s understood our crazy, chaotic 21st century digital lives better than almost anyone writing today? Well, it turns out Friedrich Nietzsche pretty much did. We're going to dive into his book, The Gay Science, and see just how shockingly relevant his ideas are and how they challenge, well, pretty much everything about our modern world.
Okay, let's kick things off with a question that, gets right to the heart of our daily lives. Just think about it for a second. All the content you scroll through every single day, the videos, the posts, the news headlines, why is so much of it, well, so easy, so designed for us to just instantly get it, no friction involved? It's like we're constantly facing this choice, right? On one side, you've got what we can call instant culture. The stuff that's all about clicks, ratings, tweets, making sure absolutely everyone can get it immediately. But then, on the other side, there's deep culture. And that stuff, that demands something from us. It takes effort. You have to interpret it. You have to be willing to be challenged. And believe it or not, this is the exact battleground that Nietzsche saw forming over 100 years ago. All right, so let's dig into this a little more, because this isn't just some highbrow versus lowbrow argument. Nietzsche saw a really big problem with this constant demand for everything to be easy to understand. For him, when you make something simple just to make it simple, you're actually destroying what makes it valuable in the first place.
And this is where he presents this truly radical idea. He asks, what if a book being hard to understand isn't a flaw? What if the author intended it to be that way, as a kind of filter? A way to make sure it's only for the people who are willing to do the work, the ones who are ready to really truly listen.
So this all leads to one of his most important and, honestly, most misunderstood points. For Nietzsche, the real value of something isn't just what it says, but how it says it.
Yeah, this is a core Nietzschean idea. When he talks about style, he's not talking about some fancy decoration you just add on top. It's not the wrapping paper around the gift. For him, the style is the gift. It's the unique perspective, the specific way of seeing things that even allows the content to exist. Take away the style, the point of view, and you've got nothing, no meaning.
And this is the exact chain reaction he warned us about. It starts with the demand for everything to be universally accessible. That leads us to rely on generic, one-size-fits-all forms. And those generic forms, they completely erode any unique style. And once you lose the style, you don't just get a simpler version of the idea. You lose the entire core essence of it.
Okay, so if making everything easy just drains the meaning out of it, what's the alternative? Well, Nietzsche points us toward the power of art. Specifically, its ability to help us face what he called the desert of the real. That feeling that the world can sometimes be pretty empty and meaningless.
Now, he argued that art isn't about escaping from reality. Not at all. It's about confronting it head-on. It's a way to look at suffering and meaninglessness right in the face. And paradoxically, that's what makes life endurable. It's how we build ourselves up, how we find a way to be fulfilled, even when things are tragic. But here's the thing. To find these really deep truths, you can't just stare them down. Nietzsche says you have to kind of sneak up on them. You need to catch them by surprise. And to do that, you need a special kind of perspective he called the glance of surprise.
So think of it this way. On one hand, you have brooding. That's when you get so deep into one single subject that you get tunnel vision. But the glance of surprise, that's totally different. It's flexible. It jumps between different fields, it compares different ideas, and boom, that's how new meanings pop up. It's the exact opposite of those rigid, generic templates we've been talking about.
Okay, and this is where things get, honestly, a little spooky. Because all of this builds up to some predictions about our modern world that are so accurate, it's almost like Nietzsche was sitting there in the 1880s scrolling through our social media feeds.
Prophecy number 1. The image takes over. He totally saw a world coming where the image would be king. He basically predicted this conspiracy where visual language, and yeah, think memes, Instagram, TikTok, would totally push aside rational thought, all while pretending to be more real, more authentic.
His second prophecy? Art escapes the museum. He predicted that creativity wouldn't stay locked up in its traditional boxes. Art was going to break out of the museums and galleries, spill into the streets, and different art forms, film, dance, literature, they'd all start mashing up, borrowing from each other, and creating something totally new.
And then there's prophecy number 3. Love becomes shopping. I mean, this is wild. He saw how the logic of capitalism would seep into our most personal lives.
The search for a partner, especially online, starts to feel less like a search for human connection and more like a shopping trip. And just like shopping, that excitement often fades right after you've made the purchase.
And honestly, the list just keeps going. He talked about the tyranny of the trend, about how social media would structure our friendships, how our own identities would feel more fluid and fragmented. And get this, an explosion of information that somehow leaves us with less real understanding? Sound familiar?
So, where does that leave us? What's Nietzsche's final challenge for us, the people actually living in this crazy world of instant everything that he described so perfectly? How are we supposed to live a real, authentic life in the middle of all this?
Well, he gives us this incredible metaphor as an answer. He says the human spirit has a choice. It can choose a well-fed existence in captivity, comfortable, safe, but totally stuck, or it can choose a lean life of freedom. And for Nietzsche, the ultimate symbol of that freedom is to be a good dancer.
Now, being a good dancer for Nietzsche has nothing to do with actual dancing. It's not about knowing a ton of facts or following all the rules. No, it's about being flexible and strong at the same time. It's about moving through ideas with grace, constantly reinventing yourself and expressing who you are through that movement, instead of just being weighed down and trapped by what everyone else expects.
And that's really the final challenge he leaves for us. We live in a world that is practically begging us to just be passive consumers, to just scroll through easy, generic stuff forever. But Nietzsche asks us to be something more. He asks us to be active creators, to be those good dancers, to find our own unique style, and by doing that, to create our own meaning in the world.